Senator Whelan.
Are you taking this, Minister?
Yes.
Minister, the question I have to put to the Minister for the Environment today is a matter of the utmost and grave concern to me, and in fact the most serious matter that has ever come to my attention, and I don't do so lightly. In fact, it's causing me grave and serious distress and anxiety, and in fact I believe it is shocking. And I'm actually calling today on the Minister for the Environment to immediately call to task the Environmental Protection Agency over my concerns over their light touch and lax oversight and light touch regulation in relation to the long-running and ongoing, unlicensed and unregulated and potentially harmful and hazardous open vent emissions from the ENVA waste oil recycling plant in Portlaoise, despite a litany of public complaints, Minister, dating back over 15 years. I have satisfied myself that I have irrefutable, irrevocable and empirical evidence now, documented evidence and scientifically established evidence, that this plant, which processes 20,000 tonnes of waste oil each year, is pumping hazardous and harmful emissions into the atmosphere in direct and total breach of its licence and regulations. I'm absolutely certain that the Environmental Protection Agency are privy to this, are aware of this, and in fact are colluding with the company in what is a cover-up of emitting what are, in some instances, carcinogenic emissions into the atmosphere and the wastewater in the vicinity. The people in the area and in the community of Portlaoise and the residents and the workers who work nearby in other plants, in my opinion, are unnecessarily being exposed to hazardous emissions. They should not have to do this, because if we have a watchdog, we should be able to rely on the watchdog. What is the point, Minister, in having a watchdog if it doesn't bark, much less bite? I believe it's the corporate culture of the Environmental Protection Agency, in fact, to work hand in hand with corporate elements and industry, rather than putting the public health and the public interest first and foremost. There is a litany of documentation which will show and prove a series of non-compliance. The people who have come forward have been fobbed off, categorised as cranks, and a blind eye has been turned to what's going on. This is, if you like, Minister, an Aaron Brockovich type of a scenario where people are living in fear, they're living in silence, and they're afraid and they do not know what to do. And it is our duty and responsibility as public representatives to make sure that this is not allowed to continue any further. In some instances, Minister, I have documented proof that the harmful and hazardous emissions, some of them carcinogens, from the plant, the ENVA plant in Portlaoise, measure up to 32 times and in some instances up to 1,000 times the accepted levels as set down by the EPA and other authorities themselves. This is a matter, as I said, which was brought to my attention over the last 2 months. I've gone to every rounds to verify this information and to stand it up. I have a litany of paperwork and documentation, letters from the Irish Rail Management from the sleeper factory in Portlaoise, where they wrote on behalf of the workers to ENVA and the EPA, imploring them to do something because the workers were repeatedly complaining with nausea and headaches. I only hope that that is the full extent of the problem being created by these harmful emissions, Minister, because we have situations like benzenes being pumped into the sky within 100 metres of homes where people are living, elderly people and young children. Open vent emissions, which should be brought to a halt immediately. What I'm looking for, Minister, is for ENVA to clean up its act and for the EPA to do its job. This is another example of the watchdog falling asleep at the wheel. We had it in the financial services, we've had it in the charity sector, and now we have it in the environmental sector. The EPA should do its job and protect the public health and the public interest. Thank you, Minister.
I'm taking this topical issue on behalf of the Minister for Environment, Community and Local Government, Phil Hogan, and I thank the Senator John Whelan for raising the issue. Under Section 16(3) of the Waste Management Act 1996, the Minister for the Environment, Community and Local Government is precluded from exercising any power or control in relation to the performance by the Environmental Protection Agency or indeed a local authority, in particular circumstances of a statutory function vested in it, including enforcement functions. Issues concerning the enforcement of waste management legislation are a matter for the appropriate regulatory authority and should therefore be pursued with the Environmental Protection Agency or the relevant local authority as appropriate. The treatment and management of waste material is subject to a registration and permitting system by local authorities or licensing by the Environmental Protection Agency as appropriate. This particular facility is licensed by the EPA, as the Senator has already said. The primary purpose of the licensing, permitting and registrations scheme is to facilitate appropriate controls on waste facilities and activities so as to ensure good and consistent waste management practice and the implementation of high standards of environmental protection. The role of the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government is to provide a comprehensive legislative and waste policy framework through which the Enforcement Authority operates. The Government's new waste policy, a resource opportunity waste management policy in Ireland, which was published in July 2012, sets out the actions through which Ireland will make the further progress necessary to become a recycling society, with a clear focus on resource efficiencies, the virtual elimination of landfilling and a rigorous enforcement regime. Both the Minister and his department are working to implement in full the objectives set out in the policy. In this regard, a resource opportunity contains a commitment to complete a review of the respective regulatory and enforcement roles of the Environmental Protection Agency through its Office of Environmental Enforcement and Local Authorities. In early 2013, the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government established a group to carry out that review by examining current enforcement structures, identifying the existing strengths and weaknesses, and make recommendations for the future. The group is comprised of representatives from local authorities, the Regional Waste Management Offices, the Environmental Protection Agency, the National Transfrontier Shipment Office, the National Waste Collection Permit Office and An Garda Síochána. The group has made recommendations and these are currently being considered by the City and County Manager Associations and Department. But could I just add to the obvious concerns that the Senator has, could I just add that I always think that it is in the best interest of not just the agency but of the people that they serve, that when a complaint like this comes to their attention, that they don't just act on it, but are in fact open about their findings.
Question, Minister. And I do respect that you are affording me the response and reply today on behalf of the Minister for the Environment, Mr. Phil Hogan. I have to say that I'm not at all. My fears are not at all allayed. I accept that the EPA is an independent regulatory authority. What I'm saying is they're not doing their job. What I'm saying is that, are we now saying that there is no ministerial or government oversight for this agency and for this authority? They're turning a blind eye to what's going on in Portlaoise. And I want to know, why is the EPA not taking any action in allowing ENTA to continue to release unlicensed emissions and hazardous and harmful emissions from this plant? I want to assure you, Minister, I appreciate your response, but I will be taking this further because I will be looking for the Minister to conduct an inquiry into this, and I will be calling on him to bring in the Director General of the EPA to be held to account, because what's going on in Portlaoise is not acceptable. It has to be brought to a halt, and people's concerns are genuine and they have to be listened to. This has gone on for the last 15 years, and it must be brought to a halt now. Thank you, Minister.
Could I just, Carla, I'll be very brief. Could I just say that the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government established a group to carry out a review by examining current enforcement structures, and that is a group that I've already pointed out has a wide variety of representative groups on it. The group has made recommendations, and these are currently being considered by the City and County Managers Association and the Department. But I very much take on board what the Senator is saying, and I again repeat that my own view is that when there is a complaint and when there are clearly concerns around any issue, and we don't know whether or not the EPO has carried out an investigation, they may very well have, and in the event that we don't know, then we should know, and most definitely the people more directly affected should know, and they should be more transparent about it. After all, if people have concerns about where they live and how they live, you know, it's a very serious concern.
Thank you.